Hi, Diana.
Hello, Rob. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Doing all right on Thursday morning.
We are rolling into the last day of the conference.
Yes, it's been a great week so far.
It has been a great week. You got Diana's on the conference committee, and you guys have just done such an amazing job. It's really been for the fact that it wasn't us all in person. It's really been a great conference.
Thank you.
And I'm hearing lots of the people we've had on have just raved about the content. And they're having fun with the networking. I did the one-to-one networking for the first time yesterday, and I
Yes,
have to admit I was skeptical, but it was a lot of fun.
yes, the chat roulette is such an amazing feature. I've never experienced a feature like that on any other virtual or online platform. So I was surprised definitely to try it out. It's a definitely value add to this conference.
Yeah, and again, like I said, very much fun. And I got to meet some new people and chat with some of my old friends. And the funniest part was I think I did 6 or 7 people, and the second person to come up was Roy Sexton, and the third was Andy Laver. So
I got Roy Sexton yesterday as well.
both guys who I talk to all the time. So it was
And
we just
Andy's
laughed.
the
We
best.
just
Yeah.
laughed when we popped on. So but it's been great. So
Yeah.
so tell us about yourself. For anybody in our audience who hasn't met you or doesn't know you.
Yeah. So I've been involved with LMA for, I guess, over the past decade. I actually started out in Phoenix, Arizona. Um, I was working at a firm in Phoenix and I attended an LMA event. And, someone had mentioned you should think about getting on the board. And at the time, I believe Nathalie Dahm was the president. As you all know, Nathalie was just recently inducted into the LMA Hall of Fame, which was well deserved. And she, basically convinced me, she's very persuasive, that I should be a member of the board. So I started out as a member at large, and then eventually I became the president of the Southwest chapter. So that was before regionalization, when it included New Mexico, Utah, Nevada, and Arizona. And then after that, I became a member of the regionalization task force, a couple years later when LMA was transitioning to their new regionalization model. And I had moved to Washington, D.C., was working in another firm, and I stayed involved with LMA. And I was asked to be a member of the annual conference committee a couple years back when Cynthia Voth was president. And so it was a really great experience. And then I was asked to be their continuity member and join the conference committee again. So I did that, although it feels like another year has been added on just because of
Yeah,
COVID and everything.
you guys
Our,
you guys had an extra year of
yes,
conference committee membership with this one. So
yes, absolutely. So it's been a great ride. I'm also a member of the Diversity and Inclusion SIG. So it's been a really great experience with LMA. I love the networking. I love the LMA family that I've met and all the great friends and professional connections.
awesome. That's so Arizona to DC. That's a move.
Well, actually, I was in the Midwest. I went to Creighton University, and when I was doing the chat roulette yesterday, I met someone that was in Omaha, Nebraska. So, what are the odds of that? That's where I went. So I went to college there, and I thought that was just so random. I never meet people from Omaha, let alone through a random chat roulette in an LMA conference. So, was in the Midwest. Then made my way to Arizona for about 9 years, and I've been in DC now for about, I guess, 5 years.
Cool. I spent 3 days in Omaha once filming urine and blood testing procedures.
Oh my goodness.
It was an
I don't even
interesting.
know if I want to know.
Yeah, you don't. It was.
Okay, yeah, we'll leave it at that.
We're just gonna leave it at that. So
Okay.
we've got a great guest this morning, and let's bring him in here. It's
Sure.
Barry Benton from Giddings. Everybody knows Barry and the Giddings guys for and I think Barry. He's
Barry.
he's out in Oklahoma somewhere touring the world in an RV.
That's right. How is everybody doing? Good
We're all
morning.
great.
Yes,
Good.
we're having a great morning.
Good, good. Yeah, I'm excited. Last day of the conference. It has been a great conference. So thanks to Diana, and the whole team for putting
Barry,
this together.
we
We've had a
lost
great time.
your audio. Barry, your audio
Oh,
went bad again.
oh no, oh no, no, no. Hold on 1 second.
All right, Barry's going to work on that. And so, Diana, what's your favorite part of the conference been so far? Which sessions?
You
Have you
know,
wanted?
I loved the keynote
That's in you.
speaker so far. The keynote and then the town hall. Baratunde, that was just, I thought it was a decision the conference committee made back in 2019, even before, we saw a lot of things happen over this past year. So I'm really proud of the conference committee for being a little bit bolder and making that keynote choice. And then I thought Gia did a great job of moderating the town hall afterwards. So that was definitely a highlight for me.
Yeah, that was really
LMA's
cool.
Got Skills was
You
a
all hear
close
me?
second, though, I'll have to say.
All right, how's that, Barry? Your audio back?
I think so. Can you hear me?
There we
okay?
go. Yeah, perfect.
Awesome.
So
Yeah,
back
yeah.
to where we were. So everybody knows Barry from getting their portraits taken at the conference, which I don't think he's going to be able to do this year. But
No, yeah. No,
I know
unfortunately.
we don't get the free
we
photos.
still love you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, we talked about how could we do this remotely. It didn't work out for us this year, but we'll figure it out. But we do have a pretty cool remote kit that we're prototyping, so that'll be fun.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were. All
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
right, go ahead. No,
No, I said it's not quite the same doing the screenshot on your camera's computer as it is when you get to go to the Giddings booth every year at the annual LMA conference and sit
Exactly.
down for them to kind of style you a little bit better and show you how to sit and all of those things.
Exactly.
yeah, Barry, tell me about that remote kit. I know we were talking about it a little yesterday. It sounds awesome.
Yeah, so we're really excited about it. So it's in its prototype project right now. We've developed this kit. It's in a box, roughly the size of a large suitcase, and it has everything in it. If you've ever played Twister, it has a mat that you lay out like a Twister board, has different colors on it. You take the color stands out, you put them on the different colored dots, and it comes with an iPhone, and you actually get it all set up. Hit a button on the iPhone and it dials us in, and we're able to see the subject. We're able to coach the subject. We're able to actually take the photos remotely, and the photos automatically download to our server. And so we drop out the background, drop in the client's background, and deliver them a photo. So it is pretty cool. We're excited about it.
Very, very cool.
Wow.
I've seen some similar applications for video, but I think just because of the bandwidth that video needs, they're not as efficient. But this sounds great.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what's the estimated
excited about it.
launch date for this?
Well, it is on that prototype tour right now, and it's going to 8 different cities across the country for this particular client that has remote workers in their in those cities. And this is the perfect scenario because those were out of network cities for Giddings legal, but and they work from home. They worked from home even before the pandemic. So it made a lot of sense just to send this kit to them. So we should have that all wrapped up by the end of next week. And then we'll have all the portraits delivered. And then we've already got a second case that is being built right now that a client wants in DC. And then we've got a third case that's being built for our London office, and we are about to ship it out here in a couple of weeks.
Wow.
Wow,
So you've
amazing!
been busy.
It's
Yeah.
it's incredible what we've all figured out to do in all
Right.
of this. So,
Well, you can't just sit back and you've got to figure out how to continue doing business. And that was one of the consistent themes we heard from clients was we're still hiring lawyers, or lawyers are still moving around, and we have empty spaces on our website, and our job is to fill those empty spaces with beautiful portraits. And so we had to figure out a way to do it, and they had the desire to figure out a way to do it. And so we're being creative. I mean, we've done portraits in people's garages. We did a project in New York. We just wrapped up a couple of weeks ago, where we sourced hotel meeting rooms in different parts of New York City that were convenient to the attorneys' homes. And so we set up a day of portraits. They were able to drive into someplace more local as opposed to going into their downtown Manhattan office.
And isn't that just the testament, though, for all of us this year, how adversity really pushes us to be innovative? I think we've learned that in the law firm space more than anything. I think there are going to be a lot of changes after this, but I think we're going to see some silver linings with what we've all been able to accomplish and dream up during this time, and especially like the virtual conference, finding different ways to engage with our audiences and our clients.
Yeah, and that's a great example of I know pivot is an overused word, but there have been other conferences that we have attended, and we want to do everything we can to support LMA, but it's been really difficult. Everyone's trying to figure out how to do business right now, and this conference, to its credit, the chat function, just having that chat and having people be able to interact with each other has been great. And then, the booth experience, I don't know what we can do to improve that. It has been a nice experience. I just don't know, it hasn't been amazing like the in-person one, of course. And then, but the one-on-one networking, I think I heard Rob mention earlier, he was a little skeptical of that. I was as well, but man, it's fantastic. It has been really great.
Great. So before you guys get too deep into this conversation, I'm going to head out and let you two wrap things up. So talk amongst yourselves.
Good seeing you, Rob.
Sounds good. So Barry, why don't you tell all of us, how long have you been involved with LMA? Because I know over the last decade, I've definitely seen your booth and your participation at the LMA conferences. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got involved with LMA and how long you've been a member?
Absolutely. How much time do we have? Because this is
I guess until they cut us off. I don't know.
That's right. Yeah. We'll see when Rob comes back. So we have been involved with LMA. I don't remember how many years. It's been anywhere between 8 and 10 years. And what happened was we have been in business for over 90 years. We have had carriage trade studios, family portrait studios in Texas and throughout the South for many years. But when Greg started this legal focus, we immediately got involved with LMA. He started going to the LMA meetings in New York and DC, and they were so warm and welcoming. It was incredible. And then so we said, well, we're onto something here. These people are very accepting of us. We're fulfilling a need that they have, and this seems like a really cool relationship. So we started exploring the Chicago and the Midwest region, and then the West region. And lo and behold, a few years later, we are solidly embedded in LMA and absolutely love the LMA organization. It has been so good to us. We literally built our business in the first few years based on our LMA involvement.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I know you're definitely, I would say, a staple. It would be very weird to go to an on-site LMA conference and not see the Giddings booth there. So definitely have made your presence known. And I'm glad that the LMA community has been very welcoming. So if we were doing the conference in person this year in Denver, what kind of things were you expecting to be doing?
In the booth specifically, is that what you're referring
or just
to?
at the LMA conference in general?
Well, it's the typical conference stuff. I mean, it's all centered around the booth for the most part, and getting people into the booth, giving them a chance to experience us. So the whole premise behind us doing complimentary portraits, I mean, it's tens of thousands of dollars worth of portraits we do every year. And we do that complimentary because we want the people that are attending the conference to experience our product. And we can't think of a better way than to give it away and let you do that. So that is, everything's centered around that. But beyond that, it's just the conversations. It's seeing the clients that are walking through the hallways, and you haven't seen them in a year, and the hugs and the hellos and catching up. And then all the networking you do after hours really is one of the most valuable things. Just, the different social gatherings, the parties. I mean, all that stuff is so important to continuing to build relationships and cementing the relationships that you have.
Definitely. And I saw from just the chat functions, you get a lot of love from the folks at LMA. So I know that you've definitely built that really great network. So if you wouldn't mind sharing, what's the craziest thing you've ever done at an LMA conference?
Oh my God. Well, you see, we can't get too crazy, Diana, because, we've got to stay a little bit professional here, but,
Hmm.
it's really nothing about crazy. It is literally about building relationships, having fun, and, uh, the getting crazy. We'll do that some other place, but LMA, we want to, be good people and maintain relationships.
Sure, I've never done anything crazy at an LMA conference. It's all about the
There are stories,
professional,
there
for
are
sure.
stories you could tell, but we've got some people watching, and this is going to go out.
You know what they say, LMA is like Vegas, right? We don't talk
That's
about
right.
it afterwards.
Yeah, New Orleans was a little crazy. Yeah, yeah. But that was
Or
all outside of the LMA conference.
did you by chance participate in LMA's Got Skills the other night?
In LMA's what?
In LMA's Got Skills, the Tuesday night
Oh
program?
no, I didn't. No,
Oh, you missed it.
no, I did, and I was hoping. I assume I'll be able to pick it up recorded because I hear Roy Sexton blew
Oh,
the
he was a
blew.
great MC. Oh my goodness. He had so many costume changes. I can't even remember he was Janet, Madonna, he was Olaf, he came every time you saw him, you didn't know what you were Spider-Man, Batman. I don't know how I don't for one, I don't know why he has all of those costumes, um but how he changed so quickly. But it also really demonstrated all the talent that we've got in our LMA. We had someone
Right.
playing the flute, people writing original songs, someone doing the worm. So yeah, I'm hoping that becomes an annual thing. And if
Yeah.
it does, if you had a talent and you were going to submit for LMA's Got Skills next year, what would your talent be?
Well, this is probably not going to shock you, but my talent seems to all revolve around photography. So my
So like
talent
a Vogue type?
no, my talent would be getting on stage and showing people how to take a photo of Yosemite and make it into a beautiful piece of artwork that you'd want to hang on your wall. Now that sounds riveting, doesn't it?
You know what? We had someone who read a storybook to his daughter, and it was actually quite entertaining.
Oh,
So,
that's sweet.
you can pull talent out of anywhere. So I'm
That's
sure,
right, exactly.
yes, after this year, I'm sure next year is going to be bigger and better than before.
Yeah, yeah, and it'll be fun. It would be fun. That sort of stuff. It's great to do on video and all that, but
Mhm.
good Lord willing, we'll be able to get together, in person next year, and to have that sort of thing be happening on stage live. Great energy. It'd be a lot of fun.
I definitely hope we can meet in person next year. Although I will say I'm very impressed with the online platform this year. It was definitely more engaging than I had anticipated. Even being a member of the conference committee, you're always get a little bit nervous with all the webinar fatigue. But I think the committee and just LMA in general, and Christy Perkins, who's absolutely amazing, who helps. She really does the heavy lifting. Really made sure that this conference was everything that we could make it be. And in this transition, you had mentioned the booth experience and how different it is virtually. So if there's anything, we'll say this is your live booth right now. If there's anything that you could say to the audience or that you want them to know, about Giddings, what would you say to them?
Well, I think there are several things, but if we want to narrow down to just a few, there's Giddings Legal Photography is a global photography agency. And what that essentially means is we manage your visual brand, specifically your attorney portraits, for a local firm, for a U.S. firm, for an international firm. So we can handle worldwide portraits for any size organization. And what that means is greater consistency. One of the things that law firms struggle with is they'll have 15 different photographers in their 15 different markets, and they're getting 15 different looks, 15 different products, 15 different crops, different retouching styles, different lighting styles. It is just a mishmash of different styles that are coming at them, and they have to try to figure out how to put all that together and make a cohesive professional look on their website. And oftentimes that's impossible. We come in and manage that entire process. And so what we give them is a much more consistent product, all the images cropped to their specifications, ready to drop into their bio page, their thumbnails, their, any products that they have that needs portraits, their images are cropped and ready to go. So it takes that burden off of the internal team, puts it on us, and we deliver that full service turnkey product.
And I've got a question for you, because I've been at a few different firms and I've seen how attorney photographs have changed over time. Mm-hmm. So you still, you've got the ones with kind of the books in the background, like sitting in front of the library, What would you say has been the biggest kind of trend or the biggest changes that you've seen in, attorney portraits over the last decade? And not only where it is now, but where do you see it going?
Yeah, so that's a great question, because we have seen specific trends, and the when we first started 8 or 9 years ago with this serious focus on the legal industry, it was all about studio backgrounds, and then it quickly evolved into environmental backgrounds. Everybody wanted that beautiful cityscape, out of focus, slightly overexposed, kind of a feel to it. Then that became, it's sort of like the pendulum went all the way to that, and then it started swinging back. And then what we started to see was a more stylized studio background. And what I mean by that is not your standard, light gray, PR kind of background, but more of a very distinct color that matched their brand. And what that led us to was sort of a transition, because those backgrounds became so stylized and specific that it became really difficult for us to do those consistently in all of their different cities. So if they had a light blue that was a specific a code for that blue, well, that's really difficult to photograph that consistently day in, day out, year over year, over many cities. So that led us to doing a lot of work post-processing to cut the folks out of that background and drop in that perfect background, which then led us to the current trend, which we're seeing a ton of, is a chroma key approach. And basically, you've probably heard that referred to as green screen. The technology has changed a great deal just in the last year and a half or so, that allows us to much more easily take that photo that's captured on that chroma key background and drop it out and drop in the client's background. So we're seeing sort of a shift so it went from boring studio to really cool environmental portraits, and then that started to shift into that stylized background, and now we're seeing a little bit of shift into chroma key. Now that's not to say there's a lot of firms out there still doing the environmental background. That's still extremely popular. So we're kind of seeing those two right now most often.
So when a client comes to you, do you suggest the format, or do they usually come to you with an idea of what they want? That they come to you saying, I want the environmental background. Do you kind of try to push them towards kind of, what's a little bit more cutting edge, or do they typically kind of come in knowing what they want already?
No, yeah. By the time we get involved, most of the time they have a branding agency that is involved in the project, and that branding agency usually has defined sort of the general look and feel of the website, and to some degree what the portraits should look like in order to support that brand. So a lot of times we come in with that. Now we do a couple of things. One is, if a client is unsure, during our presentation that we do with a typical client that's coming on board, we have dozens of samples that we go over, and it's sort of I don't know what the right way to put it, but it's a great opportunity for them to see all different kinds of looks and feels and crops and backgrounds. And so they can get a sense of, okay, I really love this. I really don't like this. And it helps them. The second thing we do at the beginning of any sizable project, we'll do what we refer to as a pilot or a proof of concept. And that's where we spend a day on site with the client and oftentimes the branding agency. And we'll photograph several different styles, different backgrounds. We'll take different approaches, but we'll talk about all sorts of detail about the project, like how do you want the posing? Do you want everyone facing a certain direction? Do you want, are you okay with people with their arms crossed? We'll talk about all the details that go into the photography piece. And then, and from that pilot, we will craft a photography brief that lays down all the rules of the engagement and what all of our photographers in our network need to do in order to provide that consistent product.
One thing I've noticed also with firms, especially ones with a lot of different attorneys, is that a lot of times the photos aren't done at one time. It's not just this, everybody signs up today and gets their photo taken so that everything looks cohesive, as you mentioned earlier. A lot of times I notice that, you have some attorneys whose photos are a little bit more playful. You've got others that are very serious. You've got some that are kind of, like you mentioned, it's kind of that way. And so a lot of times it's, when a new lateral or something joins your firm, they, need to get their photo taken, or even a new business development or marketing person that comes on board, a new chief, executive officer, they need to get their photo taken. What's the approach that you all take? Do you look at it just kind of on the one-off approach, or is there any kind of guidance that you provide in terms of helping the firm create a more cohesive look throughout?
Yeah, what we do is we encourage that firm, and if they come to us with a project where we're photographing everyone, then what we do is we work with that firm and the branding agency to really understand what their brand is. And that's the key thing. Every firm has its own culture, and every office within that firm usually has its own culture. So there's some sort of give and take. But we always start with what the firm's brand objectives are. And we want to create portraits that are in line with that. And that's why we create a detailed photography brief, so that 6 months from now, when the attorney in LA, when a lateral comes over for their LA office, then one of our LA photographers is able to look at that brief and understand what the guidelines are and how to photograph that person, where to put the main light, where to put the fill light, all the details of that portrait session in order to match that brand, so that person's portrait looks similar to the others. Now, like I mentioned earlier, most of the time, different offices have their own culture. So the LA office or San Diego may be slightly more casual than the downtown Manhattan, New York office. Yeah. But then it comes into how much flexibility does the law firm want to build into the personality of their portraits? If I'm a San Diego client of that San Diego office, I'm probably used to seeing the attorneys with no ties, maybe a sport coat, maybe not, maybe polo shirts, who knows? But I'm used to seeing that, so it's okay to see that on the website. Some firms just don't want that. Some firms want it to all be more consistent from a clothing and a posing perspective. And so we work with the firm early on, and then we build those into our photography brief, and then that helps us stay consistent.
It's interesting, and I guess I've never really thought about it too much before, but it's interesting how much the attorney bio photos can really reflect what the culture of an office or the firm is as a whole. And just from your description, it definitely shows. Branding obviously can influence, the way the colors and the backgrounds and everything that you mentioned before, but when you look at it from a client perspective, it's so interesting, or even someone who's going to go work at another firm. It's interesting how much we can gauge about a particular firm and about their culture just based on what their attorney photos on the website look like. That's a pretty powerful contribution.
Yeah, and it's there's no right or wrong answer. We see firms go both directions, and where they want to honor that local sort of feel, that local branding, so to speak. and some prefer to have more global branding. And so I don't think there's a right or wrong answer, but it's really fascinating to get into that discussion. And sometimes there's a light bulb moment where you're sitting in the conference room having that discussion. You've had your pilot, you're talking about different things. And it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, what are we going to do about that? Rogue San Diego office that refuses to wear ties. That's because then the photographer goes into the San Diego office, looks at the brief, and says, okay, everyone must be wearing a tie. Okay, you're not wearing a tie, so what do I do? So we handle all that in the front end.
So what's your best tip then for folks who are going to go in and get their photos taken? What are the best tips that you can give them in terms of what they should wear, their posing, what kind of, whether they're going for the relaxed look, the serious look? Give us some of your best tips.
Well, I tell you that we have on our website the 5 keys to, I forget it, I'm so sorry.
What's your website?
The name has escaped me, gettingslegal.com. We have on our website down at the bottom left a primer for people that are getting ready for their portrait. And so that would be my first thing, is go there, download that primer. I think it's 5 keys to your professional portrait, something along those lines. But the thing is, and this is kind of funny, when we're at LMA conference doing the complimentary portraits, we'll tell people, don't stay out late, don't drink a lot. We get a lot of funny looks at that. And then, but be hydrated.
Tell them this at the LMA conference?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So, if you're going in for any portrait, be rested, be hydrated, be fresh and ready for that portrait. Typically, most people are going to be a little better towards the mid-morning, late morning sort of time frame. If that's not your gig, then do an afternoon portrait. But most people are better in the morning. Now, as far as what to dress, that comes down to a little bit of what the branding guidelines are. But just in generic terms, darker colors work best for most portraits. If the branding guidelines allow for it, then clothing can be clothing is, for a lot of people, part of your personality. So if wearing something big, loud, and colorful is part of your personality, then go for it. But just know that will be somewhat distracting in the portrait, and will take away from people's viewing of your expression. And that's really what you want people to connect with: your eyes, your smile, your overall expression, as opposed to that beautiful, jacket you're wearing or whatever. But there's sort of a balance. If color's your thing and dressing up fun and big time colors is cool, then go for it.
Well, those are some great tips, and I'll try to remember those for the next time I get my portrait taken. Is there anything else you want to share about your experience with LMA or the experience this year at this virtual conference?
Well, no, I other than just say thank you to you and the committee for all you have done. I know it's a ton of work to put all this together. And this has been a pleasant surprise, frankly. I'll be honest. It's just been a pleasant surprise that there's been this interaction that's been going on, and with the chat, being able to chat with the others that are in the room, the one-on-one networking, and the being able to see people in our booth, to visually have someone pop on video in our booth. All those things have been great additions to this virtual conference, and sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you. And absolutely. And so for anyone watching, if you haven't had a chance to check out the different booths, please do that. Our sponsors, our vendors make our LMA conferences possible. Not to mention the fact that we've got great relationships with many of them, and many of them are our friends. So check that out. And thank you so much for participating in this year's LMA conference. I hope that I get the opportunity to meet some of you in our chat roulette. So if you haven't checked that out, please do.
Yeah, thank you, Diana. Nice talking to you.
Diana, Barry, great to see both of you. Great interview. Barry, it was great to hear about Gettings, and we put the website up there a few minutes ago so everybody could find it. So we are back this afternoon at 1:15 with Andy Laver, and then we're going to wrap up the week with Roy Sexton and a bunch of special guests, and so that'll be at 2:30. So look for us again, 1:15 and 2:30, and indefinitely on Facebook after that. So we'll see y'all soon. Thanks,
Sounds
everybody.
good. Thanks,
Diana.
everyone.
Thanks, Barry. Bye now.
Bye-bye.